Yo, what is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Blitz Sports Media. I am Ryan Linkler, and I'm back with my co-host, Brady Penn. We're on the Blitz angle tonight. We just got done with our watch party. We have the Super Bowl set between the Kansas City Chiefs and the Philadelphia Eagles in New Orleans, a Super Bowl rematch here from 2 years ago in this game. Brady, let's start off with the game that just happened. Bills versus Chiefs. The Chiefs were able to come out 32-29. What are your quick takeaways from this ball game?
I mean, it was another classic game. It was another really good game. I know you're going to disagree. I know that everybody in Missouri is going to disagree. That call that upheld, we've got still shots coming out on Twitter of Allen being past the line. That was the turning point in this game. Bills were up one, a chance to go and score, and nobody. This is what I'll say. Nobody knows if the Bills were going to go get 6. Nobody knows if the Bills were even going to go get 3. Maybe they turned the ball over after that. I felt like he had the first down. Everything that transpired after that, not necessarily the fault of the call. I definitely felt like it was a game-changing call, though, and you know how it is with the Chiefs and the narrative there. Whether it's the case or not, that's going to be what people are talking about.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, I'll disagree with it. I mean, in the moment, I thought it was short, and the call on the field was a big impact, obviously, what was going to wind up happening on the call there. I want to talk about more of the game itself. It really felt like both these offenses had their way with the defenses. And to be honest, it was the two defenses that came up big in the last 2 drives. The Bills got a big sack that forced the Chiefs in a field goal. And if you're Buffalo, that's exactly what you wanted. You had your way with the Chiefs defense in the second half. You felt like the Bills were going to go down at least get a field goal. And then the Chiefs come up. We mentioned Spags. Spags just calls a great play on 4th down, free rusher, and that's his specialty. Was able to get home. Allen almost made a Superman play where Dalton Kincaid probably should have caught that ball, was somehow open in that space. I mean, you mentioned it, a great game between these two teams. And I mean, a lot of the headlines coming out of this game now, Josh Allen, 0-4 against the playoffs and Patrick Mahomes. I don't believe he's a playoff choker. What is your take on this playoff choker of Josh Allen?
No, Sean McDermott's a playoff choker. The defense has sold pretty much every time. Gave up 38 the first time, gave up 36 the second time, got torched last year by Mahomes, got torched this year by Mahomes in 19 games, really 18 games since the starters didn't play the last one. 18 games, the Chiefs did not, or 17 games, the Chiefs did not break 30, and you let them get 32 tonight. This is not an explosive offense. This is not a high-octane offense. And you got a couple of stops in spots where you did need them, but you put yourself in a bad spot by just getting creamed in the first half by this Chiefs offense. So Sean McDermott, guaranteed playoff choker. Josh Allen, not.
Is his job on the line?
I don't know, because teams, front offices will so often look at, oh, well, we've made the AFC Championship a couple times where we win the East every year. It's hard to say he's on the hot seat, but sometimes you got to make big, risky moves. And I like your idea earlier of making Joe Brady the head coach at one point, maybe, if they don't get it done next year. But he's probably there to stay, just with the way things work.
Yeah, I think you cooked with that take there. I think Sean McDermott has been the biggest shortcoming with the Buffalo Bills in the playoffs. Now, they played pretty well against Lamar and the Ravens, but the Ravens started to come back in that second half there. What I will say about Josh Allen in the playoffs, he didn't play his best game of the year by any means tonight. He had some mistakes, but he was pretty darn good. He went toe-to-toe with Mahomes, and the Chiefs offense was going very well in this game, and Josh Allen didn't stood down. He played very well, I think, despite a few key mistakes that didn't really translate into anything. I just think, like, the narrative that Josh Allen is a playoff choker because he can't get over the hump. Guys, if Josh Allen was in the NFC or the Bills are in the NFC, they probably have 2 Super Bowl appearances at this point. And we'd be looking at Josh Allen and we're like, well, all he's got to do is now get a ring. At this point, we're looking at Josh Allen and we're like, dang, he just can't get to the Super Bowl, so he's a playoff choker. In the NFC at this point, if Josh Allen was over there, we would be looking at Josh Allen a lot differently just because that they've had to go through the Chiefs all these years. With Sean McDermott, man, it's the same script every single year, right? You put together a good defense that statistically is very good in the regular season, but you get into the playoffs. They did it against Lamar this year. They were finally able to beat a high-flying offense in the playoffs with his scheme. We've seen in the past, Joe Burrow was able to clip them with the Bengals. The Chiefs all these years have been able to clip them in the playoffs. It is Sean McDermott's fault why the Bills keep on coming up short. And I don't know what they have to change, whether it is a personnel switch or it's switching things up in general. I mean, even today we saw a lot more man coverage in the second half, and that didn't work. The Buffalo Bills just have struggled on defense, and they need to figure out whether it is a scheme change or a personnel change to get a better defense out there for the playoffs. Now, I don't care personally what they do in the regular season to fix this, because year in and year out, Brady, they're one of the top ranked defenses in the NFL in the regular season. You get to the postseason, this defense doesn't produce. What is your take on the current personnel on the Buffalo defense?
They need a pass rusher. They don't really – Greg Rousseau played well this year. Von Miller has shown up in certain spots, but they don't have a pass rusher that can take over. Their run defense is really good. They don't really have an alpha DB either, though. I mean, DeMar Hamlin sucks. Let's face it. I don't care how cool the story was. I don't care that he lived. He sucks. He's terrible at football. He needs to get out of here. Milano didn't play well tonight. There was no pass rush. There's a million things you could bring up, but –
yeah, I agree with that 100%. Let's take a look on the Chiefs side of things. On the Chiefs side, right, you head against Philadelphia, and obviously it worked against Buffalo today. The Chiefs were able to utilize the speed of Xavier Worthy tremendously in that first half, right? What is your take on the current Chiefs receiver room, and if there is anything outside of Xavier Worthy there worth looking at heading into next week? Because we did see a little Marquise Brown, DeAndre Hopkins got sprinkled in, Juju got sprinkled in. It was just interesting. So what is your take on the current kind of Chiefs receiver breakout right now?
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. The Chiefs kind of take it game by game. Xavier Worthy wasn't really involved last week. It was Kelsey. This week, Kelsey really didn't do anything, and it was Xavier Worthy and some Hollywood Brown with timely catches, kind of spreading the ball around. We'll see what it comes to against Philadelphia. Philadelphia will definitely be the best defense that the Chiefs have faced in this playoffs, and it'll be interesting to see how they choose to attack, because Philadelphia, not necessarily a blitz-heavy team, I don't feel like, but they get a ton of pressure with their front four. They've got good linebackers that play well in space, and they've got an athletic secondary, so we'll see.
Yeah, I think it's a better version of that Texans defense that they played here 2 weeks ago. So it's going to be a tough task for them. I do think I agree with you here. But it's a mix and match each game. What receiver has a good matchup that week, and then it's going to be plug and played into the lineup. So we'll see what they go with. I don't know. It's really going to be interesting. I want to talk about their defense, though, on the other hand, right? Throughout this game, it was the Chiefs coming up just a little bit short on third down or fourth down. The Bills were able to extend these drives. What do the Chiefs have to do to clean up these mistakes? It seems like they keep on happening in the playoffs.
It's third down, and it's the middle of the field. They did not defend the middle of the field well at all. We saw Mac Hollins on that big play with a touchdown, or getting them down to the goal line, rather, on cover two look. They didn't stop the run well. That's my biggest concern for them, is how will they defend Saquon Barkley? If Saquon Barkley is fully healthy and ready to go, like if James Cook did this to you, what is Barkley and that O-line going to do?
Yeah, and I think just based on what they've done in the past against run-heavy teams like this Eagles, I think they're going to stack the box. I think they're going to say, hey, Jalen Hurts, you got to go beat us. And it's going to be A.J. Brown versus Trent McDuffie. And we saw Trent McDuffie lose to Mac Hollins on a one-on-one route. So that's looking a little dicey there. We'll see what we get. But to be honest, the third downs are just, man, they're just killers of momentum, right? You get a team at 3rd and 8, and they somehow get 15 yards. That just ruins the whole flow of the game. And it feels like even if the Chiefs offense, like they were playing pretty perfect in this game, they can't maintain that momentum if the Chiefs defense keeps getting three plays to get a first down. The other team kills 7 minutes off the clock. They get a touchdown. It's still a close game. Like, it really feels like the Chiefs have to capitalize more on momentum against the Eagles. The Eagles, I think, are just a more talented team than the Buffalo Bills. They might not be a better team than the Buffalo Bills, but they are a more talented team from top to bottom, and especially defensively. The Chiefs defense is going to have a handful, I think, trying to figure out how they're going to be able to defend the Eagles. We saw 2 years ago when they faced this Eagles team, they gave up a lot of points. We'll see if that is an extra added motivation, but I think the middle of the field is a concern for the Chiefs. Now, in the offseason, how would they address it? Do they make changes at safety? Do they go out? We talked about Nick Bolton potentially not being back next year. Do they go get more of a coverage linebacker to fill that role? It's interesting to see. I do think the mistakes are concerning, but we'll see what happens in the championship game. Let's talk about the NFC game. What is your quick hits from that game?
I think Jalen Hurts played well. I think the Eagles defense, if they force 4 turnovers against anybody, they've got a great shot to win. I don't necessarily really at all think that Kansas City is going to be as sloppy with the football as Washington was today. But, I mean, this Eagles defense is dangerous. They create turnovers. They get pass rush. And they've got a good secondary. So we will see just pretty dominant all around. This wasn't really a tense game. There were times that you felt like Washington could creep back into it, but never really felt like it was in question, at least to me. And I mean, the Eagles, they got a rematch set up with Kansas City. They got what they wanted.
Yeah, I think this is the game that they did want for sure. In this game, I mean, it just felt like the Commanders, the first drive was a great tell of kind of how the game was going to go. The Eagles were going to give them nothing easy. It was going to be Commanders had to be perfect almost, convert on these fourth downs, make it happen. They settled for 3, and it just feels like from that point on, the Eagles roll. Saquon Barkley, first play touchdown. I mean, it was just crazy to kind of see how that game unraveled quickly for the Commanders. 3 fumbles. It never felt like this game necessarily was super close at times. There were points where you're like, hey, this is getting a little frisky here and there. But besides that, I mean, not exactly ideal if you're the Washington Commanders. And it really feels like, you know, their miracle run here in the postseason might have been a little bit overblown, right? This team was not ready defensively to be able to compete with the top offenses. Offensively, the offensive line has fallen apart with the injuries, and they're just not super talented, right? This is probably as far as Jaden Daniels was going to take a team in the postseason. And now we kind of head into the offseason, and me and you both, I think, are on the same page as this. We'd still rather take Caleb Williams 101 than Jaden Daniels in that draft. And I think with Daniels going down in this postseason, right, I would still agree with that take. And now if Daniels goes and wins the Super Bowl, I think we both are change it. But for right now, I think Jaden Daniels still is that 102 in the draft. Caleb's that 101. And what I'm fascinated to see from the Commanders this offseason, you had all this success this year. Now, how do you build on it? And I think it's getting rid of some of these veterans, right, that haven't they've been good for them, but I mean, they're starting to age. Bobby Wagner had a bad game today. Marshawn Lattimore was abysmal in this one. Zach Ertz had a good game, but he's getting up there in age. So what is your take? What do the Commanders need to do to get better heading into next year?
They need to get another wide receiver. You can't just run with only Terry McLaurin and then Olamide Zaccheaus and De'Ami Brown, who's a free agent, I believe, as the other 2 receivers. Zach Ertz, like you mentioned, he's aging. They got to get some help offensively, especially at the skill positions. That's my opinion.
Yeah, it'll be interesting for sure. So on the Eagles side of things, they got the passing game going. I know you mentioned Jalen Hurts had a pretty good game in this one. What are your concerns going against the Chiefs defense that, you know, is going to probably be providing pressure pretty quickly to Hurts in this matchup?
Sorry, you cut out a little bit. What was it?
I was just saying, how do you think Jalen Hurts is going to handle a different scheme like the Chiefs that does a pretty good job of disguising pressures and coverages?
Interesting. We've seen Hurts have maybe his best career performance against this defense. Obviously, a couple different pieces on both sides. But it'll be interesting. I mean, we know the kind of pressure that they like to send. Will Hurts be able to read the defense? Because I feel like Hurts has really struggled since Steichen left as a processor, as a reader of defenses. So that's what it's going to come down to. Because like you mentioned, they're not just going to let Saquon have whatever he wants. So Hurts is going to have to make some plays, and it'll be interesting. I definitely think that this is the best defense that the Eagles will have faced as well. Both teams is the best defense that we'll have faced in the playoffs.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that. It's probably, yeah, I agree with that. I was going to say it's probably the best teams they've faced, but I think we both agree the Bills are probably better than the Eagles. We probably both before we saw the Eagles put up 55, I think we were both taking the AFC team in a Super Bowl. So we'll see kind of where our picks go this weekend. But let's do a quick preview here. What are your key matchups on both sides of the ball to look at heading into the Super Bowl?
I mean, the Chiefs defensively, it'll be them against the run game. I think that's pretty obvious. They struggled against Cook tonight and that Bills offensive line. For the Eagles defensively, it's going to be how do they defend the quick passing game, because that's the Chiefs' bread and butter. They're not going to beat you downfield consistently. It just is what it is. I don't know how more teams haven't picked up on that, honestly, but it is out of respect for Mahomes. And I think offensively for the Chiefs, you're going to have to run the ball a little bit better than you did tonight. Mahomes was most of your rushing production, and against that front, we'll see how Pacheco and Hunt do. And then for the Eagles offensively, like I said, how can Jalen Hurts do against the coverage and the blitzes that Spags sends? It'll be interesting. I think A.J. Brown on McDuffie is a tough matchup for McDuffie. We saw him a couple times tonight with Mac Hollins have his hands full, who's obviously not nearly the level of A.J. Brown. A.J. Brown does fit that archetype of a bigger wide receiver, and that's what McDuffie struggles with.
Yeah, I think you kind of nailed it there, especially for the Chiefs defense, what the matchup's going to be. I think we're going to see a lot of stacked boxes with 4 to 5 down defensive linemen for the Kansas City Chiefs. I've seen in the past this team when it was Derrick Henry that was the piece they had to go stop. They are all in on stopping the run. So I think the Chiefs' game plan is they're going to be a lot of cover 1, cover 0 looks for the Eagles. And it's going to be up to them to take advantage of these looks and potentially find plays that work. I expect Dallas Goedert to potentially be in for a nice day for the Eagles, with the Chiefs probably going with that strategy. On the other side of the ball, I mean, the Chiefs are going to have to find a way to run the ball. This Eagles defense is going to be very tough against the run, but if they don't find a way to run, then the Eagles pass rushers are going to have a day. The Chiefs offensive line held up pretty well today against the Bills front because obviously they saw the Texans twice, the Steelers. This offensive line went through a gauntlet of great pass rushers, and they didn't necessarily perform as well as they did today. So I'm interested to see what the Chiefs do to adjust. I do expect the Chiefs to go with that RPO scheme that they've been running here a lot in the last 4 weeks. That's worked out pretty well for them. And it'll be interesting. I do think the speed for the Chiefs against the Eagles corners is another plus, but are they going to take advantage of it? They didn't necessarily take advantage of the deep shots like we thought they were going to on the outside in this one. It was more of an over middle attack. It was more of an outside attack for the Chiefs offense. They didn't go over the top like I kind of expected in this one. So we'll see what we get. I think we are going to be in for a great Super Bowl here. And hit that subscribe button for more Blitz content, guys. We're going to be at the Super Bowl providing you guys with exclusive interviews, some live content down from New Orleans. So make sure you guys are tuning into that. Besides that, we will catch you guys next time.